Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Geeks with Wives podcast, episode 148. Cannot believe it. We're just 2 episodes away from episode 150. It blows my mind. And of course, I say that like I've been here for a long time hosting the podcast, but it feels like a long time, but it really hasn't been for me. So, but we definitely thank you for tuning in with us this evening, or if you're listening on the podcast in the audio version, we appreciate that. Tonight, we are going to be talking about how we have introduced our kids to video games, or what our game plan is when we do have kids, to how to introduce them to video games. So it ought to be a lot of fun. Here to just help me discuss that tonight is Angela Monroe. How are you doing, Angela?
Fine. How are you?
I'm great. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself. You're from Virginia and you're a mom. So how many kids do you have?
I have 3. 2 boys and a girl. The girl has nothing to do with games, but the boys do.
I find
The
that hard to
oldest
believe.
is... Yeah, you would think with me being her mom she would, but no. The oldest is 24, the middle is 15, and the youngest is 14.
Wow, that's a handful.
I'm half done. I'm good.
Awesome. Well, we definitely appreciate you joining us. Angela often listens to the show, but once again, if you listen to the show and you want to be a part of our podcast and you want to be a guest on it, you are more than welcome to do that. You just get in contact with myself, and we'll find a way to get that done in the future. Also joining us tonight is my good friend Andrew Barton. How are you doing, Andrew?
Doing great. It's good to see you, Jeff.
It's good to see you too. What's new?
There is not a lot new. I was just telling you that I'm so busy that I don't have anything new going on. It seems kind of funny. It's a little bit like Yogi Berra, but, nobody drives in New York. There's too much traffic. That's exactly what I'm experiencing right now.
Well, I'm glad that you're just not getting into any trouble. That's the most important thing.
That is true. I am so busy, I absolutely cannot get into trouble. I don't have enough time.
Well, you just keep that up, buddy. You keep it up.
Yeah, well, when things slow down, I do have a penchant for getting myself into trouble. So, we'll try to keep me busy and keep me out of, the state pen or something.
Wow, that'll be my life's goal. Will be to make sure that doesn't happen to you. Well, I didn't introduce myself. I'm sorry, but I am Jeff Gordon, and I'm really glad that we're going to be able to talk about raising our kids on video games tonight. But as always, we like to talk about the games that we are playing right now. Angela, since you're our guest, how about you go first? What game or games are you playing right now?
Right now, like console games, none. However, I have a couple on my phone. And they're like and they're actually, one's Castle Clash and the other one is Kingdoms and Lords, and they're just build your own empire type stuff. Nothing big.
So, do you have any people that you know that play those games also?
Not really.
Yeah. My friends, I have some friends that keep trying to get me to play Clash of Clans. They're like,
Yeah,
really
I've heard of
into
that one.
Yeah. So, but I'm very hesitant about playing any game where the best people are going to be the ones that get the most iTunes gift cards for their birthdays.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, that's cool. So, you're not playing any console games right now. Are there any games on the horizon that you're excited about?
I don't even know what's coming out yet.
That's okay.
I know that sounds bad, but I haven't really had time to play too much on the console, so...
I understand that. Hey, we have all been there, where we just kind of go through a drought, and we just kind of forget. We don't know exactly what's going on in the industry, and that happens. I do have a question, though. Are you a Lord of the Rings fan?
Yes.
Okay. Well, have you heard of a game called Lord of the Rings: Shadows of Mordor?
No.
No. Okay. Well, that's going to be a game that's going to be coming out this fall, and it's going to be for last gen consoles and next gen consoles. And so I heard you say earlier that there's a Xbox 360 in the household, and so yeah, you'll be able to play that. It's pretty cool. You get to play as a guy where he can like transform into a wraith. And he can like go in between the Wraith world and the normal world, and so yeah, I would definitely look that up. I think that.
We are definitely going to be getting that one.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, when you do, let me know, because.
Okay.
I want to know what your experience is with it. Andrew.
You'll have to give me a couple of days because I'm going to be into the game.
Yeah. Yeah, we won't be able to get a hold of you.
I'll make time for it.
Yeah. We won't be able to get a hold of you for a while, but I'll just take that
Exactly.
If that happens, we'll take that as a good sign.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Andrew, my friend, since you're so busy, are you even able to play any games right now?
I haven't been playing a lot, Jeff, but my wife has been playing a little bit on my Vita. She's been playing Mod Nation Racers, and she has told me that she is not enjoying it as much as Mario Kart.
Ooh.
So, I probably could have told her that going in, but she does like herself some kart racers, especially since, as we have covered in depth on this podcast, she can whip my butt at Mario Kart. So she's been playing that. She's been having fun with it, but she says it's not as good. She's not enjoying it as much as Mario Kart, which of course is like me eating food and saying I'm not enjoying it as much as bacon. It's the best there possibly is, so of course nothing else is going to be as good as it. But she has been enjoying it and kicking around there. So
yeah, everything else is imitation bacon bits.
Exactly.
In comparison to Mario Kart.
Exactly. That is exactly right, Jeff. You have latched onto this metaphor whole hog. Ha 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 ha.
It's the stuff that they would put on your food at the cafeteria at school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it sure, it's great. I never have a baked potato without bacon bits, but still, it's not as the same as sitting down with a nice juicy strip of bacon. What can I say?
Awesome. And I just have to ask, how, as far as Mario Kart is concerned, are you playing online yet, or are you still playing offline?
Haven't really played online yet at all. We did very briefly, but that's just one of those things where I think half the fun is having everybody in their room so you can all go, oh, at the same time. Sorry for deafening our listeners right there, I think. But, when everybody's jumping up and down, throwing their arms in the air and screaming, that's where all the fun is, and that's where the synergy builds in the room. And there's something missing with playing it online. I've talked to you about this before, and I'm sure, a month from now I'll be talking to you about it again. So.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from. The other night, I tried playing it right before I went to bed. I was like, you know what? It sounds nice to just play like a quick race, a quick race or two on Mario Kart. So I played online, and I got my butt handed to me, and it just made me frustrated. And then I couldn't go to sleep because I was so mad that I'd just gotten dominated in Mario Kart. And this game that I've invested so many hours into this series, and
Mario Kart is one of those things where people can memorize those tracks and they will know exactly where to go, exactly where the shortcut is to take. And if you don't take that shortcut every single lap and just nail it perfect, then you're going to be in dead last. But on the other hand, I think that the matchmaking, at least for when Tara and I played it online, the matchmaking was really good. They had a good ability to balance people on wins and losses where they were going, and we were winning more than we were losing, but not a lot more. We were finishing in third and fourth place for the most part, and so it seemed really balanced because we are not those ultra competitive Mario Kart players who win thousands of dollars at tournaments. So just the fact that we were even able to finish third and fourth rather than 11th and 12th, I was like, yes, victory. So I think that the matchmaking there, for the most part, at least in my experience, has been really good. But I think that you played online more. Would you say that's held true for your experiences?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I regret saying this, but I feel like I'm the old guy in the lobby now, in the online lobby. I know that there's some kid who doesn't work, and he's got the summer to just hang out and play the Wii U all day, and he's, like you said, learned every nook and cranny of every lap of every race, and I'm just like, I can't compete with that. I can't. No matter how many years I've put into it, you have to put the hours into the specific game, and yeah. But I mean, hey, if somebody else is winning, good for them. But man, I've had some late nights where I just stayed up.
Hey, have you checked out the some of the time trials on there in that game?
I did. As far as competing against other people's time online.
Yeah, or the Nintendo ghosts that come on there, Nintendo Dan and Nintendo Amy and Nintendo Steve or whatever they call them. The Nintendo employees that put in a really good ghost track time, and then they you race them. Those guys are incredible.
Yes. I mean, my hat goes off to them. And they should. I mean, when you have a name like Nintendo Steve, you better be good at Mario Kart.
Yeah.
If I was Nintendo Jeff, I would be amazing. But I'm not. I'm just plain old Jeff. So, oh well. It's unfortunate.
And now I'm very upfront about the fact that my wife is better than me at this game. She was playing through. Oh shoot! What's the name of it? The Yoshi, the track with the giant Yoshi egg that spins around. It was originally on the N64. Whatever that track is.
I know what you're talking about.
So she was racing the Nintendo guy there. She would actually be ahead of him after 2 laps, and then the third lap, man, he just goes. I'm not sure what it is that he does differently in lap 3 versus laps 1 and 2, but I swear he's playing that game in fast forward. And he passes her every single time on that last straightaway. Every single time. She can be 10 seconds ahead after 2 laps and still lose. It's amazing. Amazing.
It's ridiculous. And I think that's Yoshi Park.
Yoshi Park?
Yes, I think so. I'm sure I'll get some type of tweet later on this week of somebody, or sometime next week of somebody correcting me. So if that's the case, I'm sorry. Once again, I'm not Nintendo Jeff. I'm just playing Jeff. I'm not always an expert in this stuff. But
Jeff's new Twitter handle is just plain Jeff.
Plain Jeff. Yeah, you can find me at plain Jeff. So I'm gonna talk about a game that is very near and dear to my heart. But it's been a while since I've played it, and I downloaded it on the Virtual Console on my 3DS, and I'm trying to pull it up right now because I always like a visual aid on our podcast. and that game is Metroid for the NES. Um, if you guys have been following, here it is. Look at that fancy Metroid. I don't know if we can even see that. If you're watching, you can see the main screen pulled up there. But I was a little jealous, or not jealous, but I guess the word would be intrigued and inspired by Joe Barhoum, the man who runs Geeks with Wives. He's currently going through all of the top-down Zelda games. And I was like, man, like those games were so incredible, but I'm just not really in the the top-down Zelda mood right now. And I had some points on Nintendo Club, and so I decided to go ahead and spend them. And we got Metroid for the 3DS, and I've been looking for a reason to kind of show my 3DS some love and attention because it's kind of been neglected recently. And so, yeah, I downloaded it, and I've got to say, like, the game itself, for that time, it's got an incredible just atmosphere and mood, I feel like. And, like, as soon as you pull up the main menu, it's kind of got this eerie kind of music that it's playing. And so I decided to do a little research on it. And I didn't know this, but the people that created the game were inspired by the Alien movie, the Ridley Scott Alien movie.
Mm-hmm.
And did you guys know that?
Actually, I did know that. One of the chief enemies in Metroid is named after Ridley Scott.
Yeah,
it's Ridley. So that was actually how I learned about that connection, was through Ridley, the dragon monster guy. So,
yeah.
Is this your first time playing Metroid?
It's not my first time playing it, but it's been years since I've played it, and like I remember when I first played it, it was incredibly difficult for me, and now I'm just breezing through it. Like I just need to put in just a little bit more time, and I'll have beaten it. Like the first game really isn't very long, but yeah, like even still, it's just a lot of fun to be able to go back and kind of look at the game through a new perspective. And it's kind of inspired me to go back and play Super Metroid, and just to kind of go through the series and kind of rediscover a series I feel like is, even though a lot of people love Metroid, I think that sometimes it doesn't get the love and the admiration that I think it deserves. And so yeah, I'm really pumped about Metroid and kind of diving into, I don't know how long it's going to take me, but just diving into the next several months of playing back through the series. So, do you guys have a favorite Metroid game?
Jeff, you may get me inspired here, which is perhaps a dangerous thing. I've only played the one Metroid, the original Metroid. But I got Super Metroid when it was for sale on the Wii U for 30 cents. And I also have Metroid Other M sitting on my shelf that's still in the packaging, which I've been told is a terrible game and I should probably just return it, but I'll play it anyway. But if you keep on talking like you're talking, then I may just need to play Super Metroid for the first time. So,
I think you should. I think you totally should. Angela, have you ever played any of the Metroid games before?
I played like the first one a couple of times, but I was never really great with hand-eye stuff. So yeah, I didn't last long playing.
And well, I mean, I totally understand. It's like I said, it's a game that, although I think a lot of writers, a lot of video game journalists, or people that are, you know, involved in the industry, like they would say that they really enjoyed the series and that they were really inspired by it. But when it comes to people that have actually played it, yeah, I think there are some people that like absolutely love it, and then there are some people that are just like, I could never get into it. And so, I mean, I totally understand that. You know, something interesting that I I kind of remembered after last week on the podcast, we celebrated the 30th birthday of the Nintendo Famicom system. I just remembered the great instruction manuals and like how they would kind of like give you the background of the story, and they would kind of build up a synopsis. And like I went back and I looked at the instruction manual for the original Metroid, and it like sets up the entire universe, and it's just incredible to see how those stories were told before. Like it wasn't just told in the game. Like you had an extra piece of literature that like explained the plot to you. That's something that I'm kind of taking away from it as well. And once again, I just keep talking about this and inspiring Andrew even more.
Absolutely. One of the funny things about it is, when I was playing the original Metroid, I actually went up and looked up, like you said, what was the story on the little instruction booklet pamphlet that they had there. And they, if I recall correctly, they referred to Samus as a he in
exactly.
the instruction booklet. And so you're actually all of the pronouns there say he is trapped on this planet. He needs to find a way out. And then you play through the game, and if you're good enough, you'll see Samus take off his helmet and be a girl. And so that was like, whoa, crazy news, back when the game first came out 25 or however many years ago.
Yeah.
But, really kind of an interesting, fun twist as people who only beat the game and beat it really, really well. You had to finish in so many hours or something like that, which when I was playing I came nowhere close to. But I just think that's kind of a funny twist that I think that's lost in modern gaming. They don't do a lot of like surprise endings depending upon how well you do in the game nowadays.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. One of the looking at that instruction manual, the thing that I love is that it says Samus's identity is shrouded in mystery, and so it gives them a kind of an entryway to say, oh, it's not really a guy, it's a girl. So, yeah, I love it. And so, once again, it's one of those games that I'm going to want to introduce my kids to one day, but I don't really know how to do that. And since we're talking about how are we going to introduce our kids to video games, Angela, I'm going to the master here. You're our sensei this evening. How did you introduce your kids to video games? Oh,
I think we've lost Angela.
I think we've lost Angela. No! What happened? I'm gonna send her an invite real quick. Joe, if you're listening to this, you can edit this part out. And if you're watching live, I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. Like, it's technology.
It's one of the fun parts of doing a live show.
Yeah.
Jeff, I think that if I'm introducing my kids to gaming and trying to figure out a way how to do that, one of the ideas that I've had, especially since my wife has really latched on to the kart racers, is that I think that may be a way to go early on, and that it's a concept that people can kind of understand what they're doing right, and it's not necessarily Twitch-based like some Guacamelee or something like that. Some of the combat,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily timing based. Like it can sometimes be difficult. Say trying, working out Metroid or some of the top-down Zeldas, trying to get some of the timing right on how to move and jump over enemies or stab with sword, etc., etc. But the kart racer seems like it could be a relatively easy way. Hold the gas, figure out how to turn. You're going to do it, dozens of times per race, so you can kind of get the handle and the feel of that, and then move from there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of one of the ideas that I've had. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm right there with you. When it comes to like introducing them to those kind of early types of games, like I'm afraid that my kids will be video game snobs. Like they're going to be like, oh, you played the most recent Mario? Well, have you ever beaten Super Mario Brothers for the NES? Or, yeah, like I feel like I'm going to like raise a bunch of video game snobs. But
I'm worried that I am a video game snob at some point. So maybe this is a legitimate fear that I should be having, and you just let me know.
Well, Angela, how did you introduce your kids to video games? Oh, Angela, I think you are muted. Is your microphone on? Like I said, folks, this is the joy of live, of the live show. Let's see if we can get it fixed real fast. Well, we'll get that worked on, but right now, Andrew, I have to ask you, what was we kind of talked about it last week a little bit when we talked about our first kind of introduction into video games, but how are you started on playing video games? Like, what kind of got you interested in them in the first place?
I got interested in it. I guess seeing a lot of my friends having some home consoles and that kind of thing. My parents weren't really gamers, but that was something that kind of I latched onto just because of the friends that I had. So I think if that was kind of what spurred me into it. I'm hoping that when I do have kids, that I will be able to kind of bond with them over gaming, and I can kind of be that friend role that originally kind of pulled me into it. Of course, I also have this huge library of classic games that they could pull on. Well, and by the time they actually come around, I'll have even more classic games because my current games will be classic games. But I think that starting out something, a little bit younger, or rather a little bit older, would be good for them. And something a little bit more simple. I'm thinking, Super Nintendo classics and that kind of stuff. Some of those, more 2D based, sprite based kind of games. They're just a little bit easier to understand and follow around on. So.
Yeah, so you won't be like introducing them to like really difficult games right off the bat.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to put them in their place.
Right. There's no reason for a 4-year-old to be playing Dark Souls or anything like that. But doing some of those kind of classic platforming and really the stuff that I grew up on. I think that also people who kind of jump in on, say, the PS2, GameCube, original Xbox kind of generation or newer, they don't really understand and have an appreciation for older games, because if everything you've always known has been like 3D gaming and character models and that kind of stuff, then you don't really have an appreciation for the beauty that is put into sprite work and that kind of thing. So, the more I think about it, the more I really just want to sit down with a kid in my Super Nintendo and be like, all right, we're gonna do this right. So I think that maybe I do have that element that you were saying, Jeff, of being maybe a little bit too snobby on video games.
Angela, do we have you? Do we have you on audio now? Oh.
Looks like no.
How about this, Angela? Exit out real fast, and then I'll send you another invite, and we'll see if that works. It's like the version of, like sometimes my laptop screen goes out, and I just close the laptop screen and I open it back up, and it fixes itself.
Earlier today, I was having a problem with the trackpad for my mouse, and I just couldn't do it. I restarted my computer. It still wasn't working right, and I got really frustrated and went, bam, smacked it, and then all of a sudden it worked great. I don't know what it is, but I probably shouldn't be telling people that I beat my laptop to make it work. So Jeff, what then is kind of your tactic? What are you thinking that you're going to introduce them to?
I definitely agree with you. Like, I want them to be able to kind of like learn themselves. I didn't really have anybody that, like, my dad played some games with us, but it was never like, okay, son, like, you need to go do this, and like, this is how you play the game. Like, I kind of want to be there to help them kind of figure it out for themselves. If they have any questions, like, they can, I can answer it. But yeah, I just kind of want to be there, like, as a little, like, a friend, and kind of help them to figure it out for themselves. And so yeah, I think that's where I'm mostly coming from, as far as like getting them involved in games. But of course, I have the fear, of course, that they just won't like them altogether. Like that's a real possibility. Yeah. That they could be like, Dad, like, this is great, but like I'm not interested in this.
Seems kind of dumb. Can we just go outside?
Yeah. So you told me you just want to stay inside all day and look at the TV and play this game.
Just keep in mind, it's always going to be what their friends are doing too. So
we have her. We have her. We can hear you. Oh my God!
Yay!
That's great, Angela. That's exactly what I was saying earlier. But continue going. Go.
Yeah. So let's start over. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Geek Suplex. So, okay. So when we started this whole thing out, Angela, I was saying that you were going to be our sensei this evening. Much like the turtles have Splinter, they need to learn the truth. They need to learn the way to do things. So you're gonna help provide us with some wisdom. So how is it that you introduced you said your sons were more interested in games? So how were they introduced to video games?
I actually started them out on racing games because it's highly competitive, but yet it's not as involved. So you kind of start out on the low level. So of course they had no problem whatsoever beating me at all in a very short time. But it was something that they could just kind of go, ooh, I kind of like this. And it gave them the feel for the controllers and everything else. So that's what I started mine out on, is racing games. And then we progressed pretty quickly after that to just about anything and everything.
And you're still trying to introduce them to the classics. You were telling me earlier that you guys just got a classic system the other day. What is that you got?
We have the Atari. Actually, we have two. We have the 2600 and the 7800.
That's incredible. So what has their reaction been to having...
Well,
Go ahead.
My 14-year-old cannot wait to get his hands on the game. However, we have to wait for the connector to hook the Atari into the TV because we don't have that. So, as soon as that comes in, there's going to be several days of hearing nothing but Atari games coming from the TV. And I really kind of can't wait for that because to me that's just like awesome.
Oh yeah, they'll have to play some Pitfall, and some Pac-Man.
I think we actually have that, and I know we have Pac-Man. I don't know. I don't even remember all the games that we have because I was just so stoked that I actually found the 2 systems.
And just recently they dug through this huge garbage wasteland and found a whole bunch of E.T., the extraterrestrial games. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't hear about that, but that's
yeah. So there was
that's awesome but scary.
Yeah. So it was kind of like a urban legend of video games where, when E.T. came out, they released this game and they put all of this money into it, and it was like terrible. It was like a horrible game, and they had all of these extra copies, and I don't know exactly where it was that they sent them, but
New Mexico.
New Mexico, there you go.
Yeah.
And how perfect. You have Roswell and you have E.T. out there in New Mexico. But
I thought the same thing.
Yeah. So, but they took it to this this garbage dump, and they just dumped them all out there, and so that was kind of the urban legend, and nobody knew if it was actually true, if it was just a story that just got passed down over time, but somebody was wanting to make a documentary, and so the documentary is about that game and the kind of the story behind it. And so anyways, long story short, they went out there to New Mexico, and sure enough, they found a whole bunch of E.T. games out there. So maybe you'll find, once again, not really worth your investment because if it's such a bad game that they had to take it to a garbage dump, But just
but now they'd be a novelty, so there might be a little bit of money in there, but probably not a whole lot. But the novelty of it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't I can't say enough. Just like not even just the novelty factor, but just being able to understand how how difficult it is to make a game. Like you'd think that it would be pretty easy, or maybe it's just the idea of having an E.T. game. It's like E.T. is such a fun movie. How could it not be a fun game? But it's just one of those early examples of the fact that it's kind of really difficult to make a good game, first of all, but it's also really hard to make a good game that is about a movie. Like,
right.
I feel like nobody has been able to figure that out, really.
Well, I keep telling my youngest all the time. I was like, our first computer was the Commodore VIC-20. If you wanted to play a game on that, you literally had to sit there and program the game in to the computer to play it. And you had to do that every single time you wanted to play the game.
Back when you could get like codes in cereal box tops that would give you the lines of code, and then once you got enough cereal box tops, you could put in enough code and actually play the game. But you'd have to manually type it in yourself.
Yep. Or you'd have to go, or you'd have to go out and buy books that had all the different codes in it pertaining to the actual computer that you had. And I think that's when I learned I did not want to be a computer programmer because that stuff was just over my head. So, yeah, and I didn't play the computer very much at all.
I totally understand. I mean, yeah, so what's funny is that, like, I feel like I could tell my kids that, and they'll be like, okay, Dad, that's great. I want to, like, that's a cool little story, that's a cool tidbit, but, it really doesn't apply to me. I'll be like, all right, well, like, At least you know. At least you have the knowledge. Maybe I don't know.
Great, Dad. Tell us about the time you walked uphill in the snow both ways again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And bare feet. Yeah, it's that type of stuff.
So, Angela.
Of course, you know, I made myself feel like a dinosaur telling the whole Commodore VIC-20 story.
So, Angela, one of the questions that I have for you, as our official sensei here, around what age did you start introducing your kids to gaming?
Well, like I said earlier when we were chatting, around 5 or 6 was when they were kind of starting to pay more attention to what was going on the screen, and they could kind of they could grasp a little bit more. Now I realize in today's society it's different, because you have the iPads and the stuff like that, and you got like 2-year-olds playing games on those. But I mean, it just seemed the right age for my kids. Because anything before that, they did not have the attention span needed to actually kind of sit there and play a game. And again, the racing games were like the perfect start off for that, because the race doesn't last that long.
Sure. So they kind of let you know when was the appropriate time for you to introduce them. They kind of self-identify that for you.
Absolutely.
Right. Good. That's helpful.
and when they're interested, you never tell them no.
Absolutely.
That's great. So I guess my one other question is that we can try to answer is, you know, why introduce them to video games? Like, what is it that kids can get out of a video game? What have you seen?
Oh my goodness, there is so much that a child can get out of a video game. Well, first off, if you're going to be a parent sitting and gaming with your kid, that's bonding time. So, you know, and the kids appreciate that. My boys love that I would sit down and play games with them. And it didn't matter what it was. Now, sometimes they wouldn't be happy with me because I'd beat them at something, but the vast majority of times they beat me. But other things, I mean, you can take a game, and it doesn't really matter what kind of game it is, but you can teach any number of life lessons, like sportsmanship, because somebody's gonna lose, so you have to understand that sometimes you just don't win. And then, so my oldest and I used to play Street Fighter all the time, and he was so good, I would have to find like the most devious way to beat him. So when you have like the swinging leg kicks that just keeps tripping them, and you get them pinned against the other side of the screen, and you just repeatedly trip them until they die, he would get mad at me, and I would go, but that's like life. It's not fair, and somebody's always going to try to trip you up. You have to be the one that picks yourself up. So we would have discussions like that while we're playing games. And then, you know, I've played Duke Nukem with my kids. Why? Because it's funny. So, you know, I mean, it really just kind of depends, and sometimes you just can't take life too seriously, and you got to play something stupid.
Exactly. You gotta teach your kids that when aliens invade your planet and steal all the hot babes, somebody's gotta
go through the strip joint to kill all the pigs.
It's a very, very important life lesson.
It's good life lessons. Good life lessons. There.
I know, right?
So Andrew, what do you think it is that that kids can get? What is it that kids can get out of a good video game?
Well,
experience?
You know, there's so many different things. We've already touched a little bit on some of the sportsmanship and that kind of stuff, but you know, things like hand-eye coordination and that kind of stuff is all very well documented. But what I really got out of it, that I would really hope that my future children God bless them, get out of it would be a sense of imagination and adventure and creativity. I talk way too long about the sense of adventure I got out of Link to the Past last week, and I can only hope that my kids find something that affects them so profoundly that 20 years later they're still, think about that with such energy and passion and hope, that it makes them, inspired for the rest of their life. And I would love to share that with them and share that energy with them. So I guess a little bit of a tangent here. The game, my first video game system, as I said last week, was a Game Boy, and my first couple of games were Tetris and Super Mario Land. But when I got Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening for the Game Boy, that was the game that really made me go from being a little kid who played games into being a gamer. I remember going to daycare over the summer, and there was a guy there who also had that game, and we would take our Game Boys and we would play, and we would compare notes on what we were doing. I would solve a puzzle and tell him what the solution was. He would solve a puzzle and tell me what the solution was. And I remember this very, very clearly. I remember Tyler. Hey, Tyler. But I remember this very vividly. This is really entrenched in my memory. And so I know that was the moment, that summer was when I made the switch into being kind of a gamer. And then I ended up getting Link to the Past for Super Nintendo and thought, wow, this blows even Link's Awakening out of the water. I didn't think it could get any better, and it did. So, I'm not really sure where I was going with this story now, but I think that if you can find a way to channel some of that passion and that energy and that excitement, that creativity and that that spirit, I think it's great, and something that maybe can be harnessed later on in life, and that's one thing that I would like for my kids to get out of that as kind of a life lesson thing, that you don't have this je ne sais quoi kind of thing that you can't just really sum up into a quick and simple word like, oh, motor skills, oh, sportsmanship, but something else there that can maybe be a driving force and passion and energy in what they do years and decades later. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Creating, well, no, actually, I think like creating games of their own, or going out and doing stuff like that.
Yeah, or even just being able to find that sense of adventure within themselves. I can't even tell you the amount of times after playing Link's Awakening and Link to the Past that I would go out into my backyard and pretend I had a sword, and I would just go on an adventure just like Link. And I would find a little cave that it is dangerous to go alone. Take this, thrust a sword into my hands, and then I'm off on an adventure pretending to fight Tektites in a dungeon, and finding all of this kind of stuff in my own, all in my own mind and all in my own creativity, and then coming up with my own stories and my own adventures that I was able to do. Starting with this germ, this seed that I got from gaming, and just allowing that to blossom and grow elsewhere in my life. I went to school for creative writing. I majored in creative writing in college, and wrote dozens and dozens and dozens of short stories and that kind of stuff. And all of that can be traced back probably to this experience that I had with Link's Awakening as 7-year-old Andrew. And here we are 21 years later, and by God, I'm boring you guys with it. So, I can only hope that my kids get something out of it in the same way.
I like
Right.
that. I like that, Andrew. I like where you went with that. No,
Good. Well, I'm glad I was able to contribute.
Yeah, me too.
So, Jeff, then, what life lessons do you want your kids to learn?
Oh man, what do I want them to learn? I think I want them I just want them to be passionate about something, and not just passionate about what I'm passionate about. Like, I want them to be able to find what it is that they consider like near and dear to their heart, and a way to express themselves creatively. And if that's video games, that's great. Like, to me, it's just like an avenue, and for me, it's the avenue that I found. Like, it's what inspired me, and it's inspired you guys, and it's inspired countless other people. And so that's kind of what I want for them. Is I just want to be able to put it out there and say, hey, like, this was something that was near and still near and dear to me, and I want to share it with you. And if you're crazy about it like I am, then like that's awesome. But if you're not, then
Right.
that's okay. But like, at least, like, I don't know, maybe they'll be able to understand me, and maybe they'll be able to understand like what their dad was passionate about, and from that they can be like, oh well, like, maybe video games isn't, maybe those aren't for me, but like I like this, or I want to, I want to, do just something else, but I still want to express myself. So that's kind of what I want them to define from it. And
In part, it's and I think Angela actually said this earlier, but it's an avenue or a pathway for you to bond with them. It's
Yep.
a ready-made ability for you to have quality time with your kids, and especially when they're young and they don't know what they like yet. They like what you tell them they like. So you tell them, hey, you like video games now, and they say, okay, I like video games now. And I'm really looking forward to that, someday, many years from now, when I'll be introducing my video games to my kids and say, all right, this is what we're doing, and I can share that passion, that energy, and we can have, good old-fashioned quality time with each other, just chilling and playing Link's Awakening or Link to the Past or, Uncharted or whatever. I don't know. But I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and just to unleash the feel-good stuff, I read an article on joystick.com, and there was a guy who wrote this article, and he was playing a game that his dad loved to play on I think maybe the Xbox 360. Like, his dad had recently passed away, and so he had like this history of video games with his dad, and so his dad loved this racing game. And so he was like, you know what, I'm going to try playing this game. And his dad's, like, time trial ghost was in the game. And so, like, he would, like, race against his dad, like his video game dad ghost, like. And so, I don't know, like, it is really cool that we can have those kinds of experiences, not just with our kids, but like with our significant others, with our best friends. Like, it's just cool that kind of medium of art is able to be shared like that. So
Absolutely.
Pretty cool. So it was hard to read that article without tearing up just a little bit. So pretty.
Yeah. You've got Angela and I here getting a little bit misty-eyed. So thanks, Jeff.
Just a little bit.
Hey.
This is something that we've actually talked about in the past when we spoke on sharing video games with our significant others. I think that we did something about that back around Valentine's Day, maybe. And I talked about how it's all about spending quality time and the key word of share there, or together, and that kids, and I guess our parents are the same way, that it's about just sharing quality time. I enjoy it, so I want to share that with my wife and the kids that we will eventually have, and I can only hope that we can find some way to share that, whether it's gaming or comic books or movies or TV shows or whatever it may be, that we have a channel for on Geeks with Wives, or even something else. But finding a way to share that and share that together.
We'll have to start a new website called Kids of Geeks with Wives. I think.
That would be hysterically funny.
I told Joe a long time ago, right after his daughter was born, that I was just waiting for the day that we were going to announce Geeks with Wives and Kids. So it's coming. Yeah. I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's only a matter.
So what's kind of interesting about that story that you were just talking about, I actually lost my dad 3 years ago. Oh. And our big thing was, as a family, we'd get together and somebody would play Zelda. And it didn't matter which Zelda game it was, but somebody was playing Zelda. And then he would go back and he would watch what everybody else did to figure out where to go in the game.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So he would kind of, but if he got to a point where he was stuck and we go, oh, well, you need to do this, he'd go, shut up, I don't want to know. But then he'd watch everybody else do it so that he knew what to do.
That's great. That's almost like trying to get a video walkthrough or something before the days of YouTube.
Exactly. Well, he knew one of us kids, either, and this is even funnier, either one of his kids or one of his grandkids was going to figure it out before he did. So he would just pay attention to what we were doing and then, figure it out and be done with it. And then when he'd finish the game, he'd go, "Ha, beat you guys."
That's great. Yeah. Hey there. So. Once again, we appreciate you, Angela, coming on and sharing with us your experience and introducing games to your kids. And if you are listening to us tonight, or are listening to us on the podcast that comes out every Friday on iTunes, definitely let us know what your experience has been. Maybe how you were introduced to video games as a kid. Or if you do have kids yourself, or plan on having kids one day, hopefully, or hope to have kids one day, let us know. You can tweet at us at Geeks with Wives, and just kind of let us know what your experience is in that area. But what we also want to make sure we talk about tonight, we don't want to forget this. We had a little discussion earlier, Andrew, about final thoughts.
We did.
Yeah,
we did.
And we weren't too sure if Andrew was going to have a final thought. But I'm just wondering, do you have one now? Have you?
I think I do, Jeff. I think I do.
So fire away. What is your final thought for this evening, Andrew?
So we were talking about Comic-Con, and I think that one of the things that I'm really excited about is the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. My wife and I have tickets for the midnight premiere on Thursday. The fun part about this midnight premiere is that it is actually at 7:00 p.m. So we're still. I think that the movie theater is a little bit confused as to when exactly midnight is, but either way, we'll be seeing it on Thursday at 7 p.m. I'm really excited about it, really jazzed for it. The comics are a lot of fun. Thank you, Casey, from our Geeks with Wives and Capes, for introducing that to me. But it's a lot of fun, and I was really excited that they've already announced a sequel that will be coming out, I think, in 2017, Guardians of the Galaxy Mark II. So I'm really excited for it. It's a great vote of confidence that the studio has already lined up a second one without even having the first one officially hit theaters yet. It's been getting really great reviews from the pre-screenings and the press and critics and that kind of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. But it seems like they've got a lot of really good comic book movies coming out, and a lot of really good potential in some movies that are coming out that maybe we don't know they're going to be good, but they definitely have a chance, and I'm looking forward to giving those movies a chance too.
Yeah.
But
I saw the trailer. Yeah, it should be awesome. I saw the leaked trailer of the Batman vs Superman movie, and it just blew me away. If you haven't seen it, I don't know if they've taken it down yet. They probably have, but if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, it starts off with Batman tweaking with the bat signal, and he turns it on, and it's dark and it's dreary, and then out of nowhere, you see Superman just floating up in the sky, looking down at him, and his eyes glow red, and they just kind of they have a stare off, and then it just ends, and it's got this, the symbol for the movie, and I'm just oh my gosh, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this awesomeness that's about to hit me in the face in a couple of years.
That's one of those movies that I'm really excited for the potential.
Yes.
That I don't know if it's going to deliver, but I'm excited to give it a chance.
Yeah.
So here's hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping the same thing, and only because I'm an Affleck fan, so I'm kind of hoping that he proves everybody wrong. Because I loved him as Daredevil. So I mean.
You may have been the only one, Angela. You may have been the only person.
I know, I think I am. I just watched the movie the other night again, so, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm at least going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He is a really strong actor, so let's see how he does in Batman. I mean, worse decisions have been made. Here's looking at you, George Clooney.
Yeah.
But, you can only go up from there. So I think that it's definitely got some points, and regardless of whether or not it lives up to the full potential, it should have enough going on in there that's good to at least make it worth watching at some point. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I'm right there with you, my friend. Angela, what is your final thought for this evening?
My final thought is gonna have to be, and include your kids in as much as you possibly can, because they're only little for a little while. Because I mean, like I said, my oldest is 24 and my youngest is 14, so I only have 4 more years of having that stuff left. So all that you have to listen to me and we're gonna do this. And yeah, I only have 4 more years of that. Well, I hope 4 more years. I'm thinking 2 more actually, because once they hit 16, it's like, forget you, Mom. I don't care.
Yeah. Or it could be the flip side of it, where they just never want to leave home. Which hopefully that doesn't happen, right? You want to get it out.
Yeah, I'm hoping that yeah. Well, no, I love spending time with my kids. I really, really do. And like that's one of the reasons why I started playing games with them, and just so that we would have something in common and something that we could continue to do over the years.
Yeah. Well, once again, we definitely appreciate you coming on and just chatting with us, and it's been awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. You're awesome. We love you, Angela. All right. This is my final thought this evening. I got a game today that I'm very excited about. Woo! It's called The Last of Us. It's remastered, and it's on the PlayStation 4. Yeah, I didn't have a PlayStation 3. There's a story behind that. To make it easy, we'll just say that I was in college, and then I was out of college, and graduated, and in that time, there wasn't a lot of money to just go and spend on a PlayStation 3. So that's why that never happened. And one of the, you know, I always hear about games like Metal Gear Solid 4 or, you know, the Uncharted series or Heavy Rain, and I would just be so jealous of people that own PlayStation 3s because they got to enjoy all of these great exclusive titles. And ultimately, one of those exclusive titles is The Last of Us Remastered, or The Last of Us. Now it's remastered, but yeah. So last year in 2013, The Last of Us came out, and it's considered by many to be one of the best, if not the best, game of the last generation of consoles. And so I'm really excited to play it because one, I want to know what all of the hype is about, and I don't doubt the hype. I really do believe that it's probably an incredible game, but I have to experience it for myself, and so I look forward to traveling through the post-pandemic world of The Last of Us, and I mean we'll see what happens. Have you guys played it?
Absolutely.
No.
And I'm sure, much to Joe's chagrin, he said something on the podcast a little over a year ago now. They got me riled up, and I contacted him and said, Joe, I'm writing something for Geeks with Wives, just to let you know. And so they posted that on the site, and that was my first contribution to Geeks with Wives, was whether or not the main character of The Last of Us is a good or bad role model, a hero figure or not. So if you're interested, you can go look that up in the Geeks with Wives archives. But it is rife with spoilers, so go ahead and beat the game first, and then look that up, and then fire back a year later and tell me whether or not I'm right or wrong. But that was actually what wrote me into Geeks with Wives, and here we are now, a little over a year later. So you know what, Jeff? Enjoy it. Enjoy the heck out of it. It's a really good game. Well, actually, don't enjoy the heck out of it because it is a pretty sober game, a pretty somber game.
Yeah.
But play the heck out of it, and it's really good. Really, really good.
All right. Well, I'll have to maybe I'll do the remastered version of the great article that you wrote.
Absolutely.
I'll give my opinion on it. Well, awesome. Well, once again, we thank you for listening to our podcast. And once again, if you can, and you're on Twitter, follow us at Geeks with Wives. Like us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. But remember that the podcast comes out live every Tuesday, and you can always download the podcast on Friday on iTunes. So we definitely appreciate you doing that. We definitely want you to know that we do this for you. We love talking video games, but we like being involved with our community. That's what's most important to us. I want to just allow everybody real quick to share their Twitter handles. Andrew, where can we find you?
You can find me at acbarton08.
Awesome. And Angela, where can we find you?
At Angela M29.
Fantastic. I am at Gentle Jeffrey. We once again appreciate you listening to the podcast, and we want to see you next week. We've got a great show in store for you next week. I can't spoil anything yet, but all I can say is follow us on Twitter, and you're going to love what's coming up next week. I can't not stress it enough. So once again, we're signing off. Thank you guys for listening to 148. And we'll see you next week. Bye.